Okay, so this is the introductory video in which I will try to demonstrate how the unit reacts, how responsive it is. I'll also try to cover some basic shortcuts, options and applications. So the unit is normally turned by ignition key, of course, like any other. The LED lights will not light up unless you have fired the lights first, so it probably won't be visible on a bright daylight, but maybe you can see that the LED buttons are lighted up now, and if I turn the light off, then only the SRC button will remain lighted. So the home screen is in fact the one that you see over here. It has an analog as well as the digital clock. All the other applications that are installed by default or that will be installed will be available by scrolling the screen like this. So regardless of the specific screen or even the application, for example, that you are running, you could easily switch to home window just by pressing the SRC button. If you double press it, then you are back at home. Very same thing you can do also by pressing the home button over here. It will do the same. By double pressing it, you go home. And also very same effect you will see if you decide, for example, to press R/T button on the steering wheel. So then you will also, by double pressing it, you will return to the home screen. Now this is the launcher bar down there. It actually consists of 6 applications or shortcuts, so to speak, and I so far haven't managed to find a way which would allow me to change these applications. So for example, the first one will start the Bluetooth dialing, which I will be getting to later, then the FM radio, then the music player, the Google navigation, video player, and you can also access the device settings. Regarding, for example, if I start the radio applications, for example, it will start. I can press home button and it will remain in background, so I can use the seek buttons like this and volume buttons, and I can also use the steering wheel controls in order to manage the radio application or the music player application and stuff like that. Okay, so if shutdown of any application is needed, it can be done by pressing this top bar down there and then accessing the task manager. So it will actually show the applications that are currently running, and you can simply touch close all and you will get them all closed. Now besides the task manager, you can also access the sound settings. I will pass to this menu a bit later, and you can also access some basic device settings. Now this option menu is also available through other settings as well. So in order to enter the general configuration menu, you would normally press this button over here and it will actually access the device settings. Now first option is the sound. So you will notice that this is the very same menu that was accessible through this part as well. So when you access this menu, the first option that you have is to adjust the volume balance, and it is done graphically like this. Now I haven't been using this option, I didn't feel any need to use it. The second option is the volume equalizer. As you can see, you can use some of the presets. Maybe it would be better to show this while the radio application is running. Okay. Just to find some station that might be with some better reception. Okay, so we were at the device settings, then we were on the sound, and then we had the volume equalizer. So actually you can preset several presets like this. I like to use the standard option. Okay, now besides the volume equalizer, there is also the DSP settings menu, in which you can amplify or attenuate some of the device settings, like you can see over here. You can also change some effects such as loudness, 3D, bass control and stuff like that. I usually don't mess these controls, I just reset them and use the default settings. Now there is also the option to enable the volume compensation. Now you would activate this, and if for example you are having much throttle, then it would increase the volume so that you don't hear the car's engine running. Now perhaps the most practical menu here is the applications volume. in which you can adjust any application or input that might be required, and it comes also on two screens, as you can see over here. For example, now we could adjust the radio volume ratio with respect to the other applications that are configured. That's like this. Okay, so besides the sound, there is also option to use the display. In another video I will show how the display responds in the night. There is separate option for adjusting the day backlight, as you can see here. Now this option modifies the day backlight, and there is also another option that you can use for the night backlight. Now what I have noticed that there is no option to set the time at which the day backlight would switch to night backlight and stuff like that, and vice versa. I believe this should be fixed in a future software update, but now I have not seen any options to do this. It appears that the day backlight option is constantly on at this moment, but I'm not sure, I have to verify this. And there are also video settings in which you can adjust custom brightness, contrast and stuff like that, but I also never used this option, never felt the need to do it. Okay, so then there is the rear zone settings. I really am not using any rear screen, so I'm not using this option. Then there is the Bluetooth settings. As you can see, you are given the option to change the device name. You can also change the pin. Then you can use the auto connect option for the Bluetooth to connect automatically. There is also some options to set the Bluetooth microphone, and also some historical devices that were previously used. Now this device acts as a pure Bluetooth slave, which is making it rather difficult, or I would even say impossible, at least in this software version, to connect this head unit, for example, to the OBD dongle, which also acts as the Bluetooth slave. And this is currently making this unit impossible to connect to the OBD dongles and run diagnostic software such as the Torque app. Also, it would seem that this device can only pair with one cell phone at the same time, so it does not support dual cell phone pairing like normally any decent headset, Bluetooth headset would support. So definitely I think that there is much space for improving the Bluetooth part of this software. There is also the device settings. First of them is the boot logo, which allows you to switch between different boot logos. I have left this default. Now there are some options, I'm not quite sure what they do. Maybe some of them are translated in a wrong way, but I really haven't been touching those. Now there is also the key light color. I found this to be rather convenient one, because it allows you to change the LED. I'm going to show you, but it's not going to be very visible during the daylight. So you can actually change between several tones of orange LED, and I found that LED 3, for example, would best match my LED colors in the BMW. VCDC is the, I think, dedicated space within the unit for the virtual CD changer. This option would ask if you would like this space to be formatted or stuff like that. Okay, so besides these actions, you can see also that this is a resistive touchscreen, and sometimes, at least for myself, it took me some time to get used to it, because normally I use the capacitive screen cell phones for years now. But as you can see, when you get used to it, it's really not a big problem. Sometimes you may end up pressing some unwanted option instead of scrolling, but when you get some practice, it really isn't a big deal. So this menu would normally allow you, just like any Android system, to change the language. Now I'm going to skip that. Wireless and networks, well, this is just also the basic Android interface for setting up the Wi-Fi. As you can see, my Wi-Fi is now connected, and I'm actually using the hotspot mode for the cell phone, and through that I'm getting my access to the head unit. Personalized settings would allow you to change the wallpaper and stuff like that, which I haven't been using as well for now. And now there's the navigation settings. Depending on whether you have the iGo installed or not, this option will allow you to use the default installation or to use the iGo installation. Now the unit will come with the iGo installed, but actually it will be installed within the flash drive of the head unit, and that would consume some space. So normally I'll show where the iGo is connected, then we'll get back to this. Normally the iGo would be accessible through the hard disk. Then you have the Android, and within this Android folder or directory you will find the iGo installation. Now if this one is used, you would have the devices iGo, but you can also install additional iGo and put it on the navigation SD slot. So if you do that, if you insert the card within the micro SD navigation slot, it will then simply ask you which folder on this navigation SD would you like to use. Now I have selected iGo, and that folder, that iGo folder, will be accessible as a symbolic link through the unit's hard disk. All of these other folders, which are also present in the root of the micro SD card, will not be accessible. So for example, if I decide to use this iGo folder, then I will see in my in the file manager that on the root of the hard disk there is the iGo folder. Now this one is actually a symbolic link to the iGo folder that is in the micro SD card. So that much for the navigation settings. There is also option to adjust time and date. Now if I set here, for example, mind the time. Now the exact time on my clock is also 10:23, but this clock is now set manually. Now I'm living in UTC +1 zone. If I set the automatic clock, it will adjust through the internet connection. Now if it does adjust through the internet connection, eventually you can also use 24 format. I don't know when this synchronization will occur exactly, but if you set it to synchronize automatically, the clock will simply adjust itself to the UTC time and not the current time zone in which you are living. It's either that, or the clock will not adjust to the daylight saving settings of the specific country you're living in. And I found this to be improvable at very least. For example, the GPS antenna could be used to establish the specific country and also the latitude, and based on this information the clock could very easily and very precisely adjust itself and also respect the daylight saving time of the specific country in which you're living. So there is definitely space that can be used in that regard. Okay, so then there is the steering wheel settings. You can use those to assign any of these functions to any of the steering wheel buttons. But I'm not using it. I found the default steering wheel buttons to be quite fine. For example, the plus and minus button will simply increase or decrease the volume. Arrow up and arrow down buttons will switch between radio stations or music files being played. Voice button will initialize the phone dialing, and the R/T button will simply return to the home screen. Okay, so that much for the steering wheel. There is also a possibility to calibrate the touchscreen. It might be a good idea to do so when you get the unit. So the process is very simple. You would simply use this arrow, and then the red rectangles appear, and you need to press each one of them to get the calibration completed. Now once you press them, you will get a success message, which will mean that your touchscreen has been calibrated. Now there is also a classic option to upgrade, which I will not be doing now. Also you can use the factory data reset and get some device information. Now I'm going to scroll through this device information for the reference. The first option is system updates, which will inform you that your system is up to date, whatever. The status. Now this is just for the reference. There's also the uptime here. Then you have the model number, which is here. Android version, actually it's using 2.3.4 Android, 2.6.35 kernel. Now I don't know the rest of these options, but you can see them for the reference. Now that would pretty much cover all the options which are available to adjust through the unit's options interface.